All right, Drew, we go one step at a time in the Sojourn. So, Drew, this week, the Sojourn on PS4, first-person puzzle game?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly where this thing shines, and the art style, I think, is really where...
Yeah, this one I knew we'd both like. As soon as I started the game up, I was like, I see why Drew picked this one. It's like this art style is kind of that... You know, it's almost like a pastel color that, wheel that we're working with here, and it's very soft. All the terrain and everything is, it looks really good.
It is. It's so gorgeous and it's bright until you flip to the dark side. And that's how it gets tricky, because that's when your puzzles are affected. The whole game is about solving these intricate puzzles with repeatable functions.
Yeah, it's
a weird mix.
There's certain techniques you have to use to solve these puzzles, and you end up kind of repeating some of the steps over and over again to get yourself from the point A that you start to the point B, which essentially and this is what's so cool about this game. This is what actually I noticed first. They kind of throw you into the first few basic puzzles, which is kind of like a tutorial setup. But as you transition from level to level, there's no load times. You finish the level, you reach that platform, you walk through a door, and now you're on to the next level. And my favorite part is as you walk through that door, the path in front of you starts to build, and then it reveals the entire puzzle as you kind of enter that area. And for me, I was like, whoa, no load times. I can go from puzzle to puzzle to puzzle to puzzle. I thought it was really good. Yeah,
you go to puzzle
the first few, you go puzzle to puzzle to puzzle. But you know what? They got hard pretty quick. I'm not gonna say hard tricky, because again, we said there are some techniques you have to use, and one of the biggest techniques in this game is flipping to the dark side. So essentially, what happens is there's a spot in the puzzle where there's some flames come up from the ground. You step into those flames. Now we've switched from the daylight, now where it's basically nighttime. That's the way it looks. It's kind of just to show your transition from light to dark, essentially. And now we have a bar, and every time we take a step, we lose a little bit of this bar.
And
you have to be in the darkness to make some of these things work. So there's statues you move around that allow you to teleport using the darkness, ability. You look at the totem, and then you can switch places with that totem. Using up none of that kind of mana bar, we'll call. You know what I mean? So that's kind of an aspect in a game like this where I'm not into these first-person puzzle games. Haven't played too many of them, but I'm a big puzzle guy. I love to solve puzzles. Whether it be a video game, a Sudoku, anything like that. I'm a puzzle guy. So I knew I'd get into this one, but again, it is difficult, and trying to figure out exactly what you need to do with some of these things is difficult. I mean, they give you a bit of an idea of how the mechanic works, but then you don't necessarily know how to apply it when you're in the level.
The way it works is some of them are set up that the teleport is to get from one ledge to the next, but in that portion of teleporting, you then have to get the harp to sing, which then builds this bridge. Or if you're in the dark zone, you can then see this gap gets filled with this blue goo or
essentially it's like just off like a phantom bridge.
But you have to have that bar in that side of the puzzle, right? Which then allows you to get to the other side, which then you want to teleport because that brings you to the other side and then flips you over here, and then it's tricky the way that it's set up.
It's confusing when we talk about it too, and it just kind of makes me think about it is confusing in the game to understand what exactly you have to do. You have to get to the other side, but getting there requires not necessarily always moving forward. Sometimes you have to take 2 steps forward, then that step back to move more forward again. So that's where it started to get tricky for me, is when I've moved this totem over here and I've duplicated it. The harp's doing its thing. I've made it across the bridge, but now I have to go back across the bridge to get the totem, hit the harp again. Then it's just there's so many different steps sometimes, and I know there's probably a couple different ways to solve these puzzles, but for the most part, what I've seen, it's been fairly like there is one solution for the most part.
It seems that way,
obviously there's variations of the solution, but there's still only really one clear path that will get you to that final destination. And it made it kind of tough. There's a couple times I had to put this down and be like, because I was cruising through and then I got stuck, and I'm like, all right, what am I not seeing?
You hit a wall.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I found that difficult to want to come back and then have to start doing that again. So once you break through, then it's like, okay, another 2-3 levels, and then another tricky one comes up. I mean, that's the idea behind these games, is that as we go along, the difficulty obviously is going to increase. but maybe I'm just not as good at puzzles as I want to be. But this one got hard pretty fast.
I enjoyed that. I like the fact that I sit down and you could see everything from the one spot the minute you walk in through that kind of that portal.
Yeah.
And it opens up and you see the entire like level, right? And you go, everything is right here. I just need to figure it out.
Yep.
So then you're teleporting, which then when you teleport the temple, that goes here, which then duplicates over to here. But then you need to get the over here, and then you get the harp going.
But if you take it out of the duplicator, it disappears on the other side. Again, it's like we probably sound like we're talking nonsense.
So funny.
But it's again, it is just one of those games where you kind of have to see it to understand what we're talking about. So everything you're seeing behind us right now, it should hopefully lend a bit of a hand on what's going on. But again, it's just there is a confusing aspect to this game, and I keep coming back to it. Like I want to like this game more than I do, but it's kind of difficulty level and just its lack of explanation a little bit. Like I said, it explains how the mechanics work. But you run into using those mechanics in very different ways in each level.
Yes.
So it makes figuring out how to use that mechanic at each level or each point. Okay, do I do it like this, or am I supposed to do one of these maneuvers?
Sure.
And then you get into, you've made a bunch of moves on your board, and now things are all moved around, and now it's become even harder to figure out how to solve these puzzles, and you end up having to restart and refresh the board, and then kind of go back into it with a fresh slate.
It's like the Rubik's Cube, right? You mix it around and go, oh man, now what do I do? But I really like this game. I like the style of game. I love
visuals were
art
awesome.
Style is phenomenal. It's confusing, but what's more confusing, Corey, is the story. Because I don't, there's this, I don't know.
I don't even know if I want to call it a story.
I don't understand what it is whatsoever. People are blindfolded. That's all I see. Kids are blindfolded. Adults are blindfolded. There's this big dude with a lot of coins with them or something. I haven't got a clue, man. I got nothing.
You know what? And I tried to understand what was going on. It kind of brings you, as you progress through these levels, you kind of enter these areas that aren't a puzzle. It's more of just an area you have to pass through.
Yeah.
And as you walk through these kind of statues of basically a family, it kind of starts at birth and then goes from there.
Yeah.
And there's a few different steps as we go along.
I got some of it, but then it just really got.
Well, there's really no explanation as to why they're there, why we're walking through them, and what its relation to what that is to what we're playing is.
It's like someone had this breakthrough of what life is supposed to be about, and this is how their journey of explaining how we start as humans and then kind of progress, but then I don't know, and then your family, and then your kid goes out and your kid's gone with a bunch of other little kids, and the adults are left behind.
It loses you. I even tried
what's going on?
Go back a bit to try to, maybe I missed something where I'm not understanding.
I'm glad it wasn't just me.
Yeah, again, it's just the explanation of what's going on is very vague. There's no dialogue in this game whatsoever. The only sound I can't get out of my head is the sound of the harp, because every time you play it, it makes the same tone for the time. Yeah, and you know, I'm not gonna lie, a harp, it's beautiful sound.
Sure.
It was beautiful, but don't give me the same sound every time, because there's going to be a time, maybe in a level you get stuck on, you're hitting that harp like
15 times,
20 times, and I don't want to hear that tone anymore, because guess what? I know I'm running out of time and I can't make across those bridges before the harp stops.
You're going to smash that harp in a second.
Exactly. So there's things like that where it's just like, the game looks really good. When you're playing in the level, there's also the environment around the level.
Gorgeous.
Again, it's not super detailed, but it just looks really polished, really clean. Everything about where it is makes playing that game enjoyable. And the audio, again, there's not a ton here. There is some background music that's very light, but again, that's also repetitive over time. It has this kind of whimsical feel to the music, to the tone, but at the same time, it's kind of like, all right, I'm getting sick of this. I'm gonna turn the music
and I enjoyed it. It was just like this chill experience, solving puzzles, but at the same time, I can't get this. What is the story? The story, man. I get stuck where. What is the purpose of what all this? Gives you text and they give you the meaning of life and all that stuff. I'm like, wow.
You know what? We're both expressing frustrations with this in different ways.
Sure.
You know what? I think it's probably fair that we should score this, because we are seeing it, good and bad on this one. If you've got a score, Drew, what are you gonna give it?
All right. So I love, obviously, the art style hooked me instantly. I knew I'd love that part. I like the puzzles. I like the mechanics that they've introduced for you to traverse the level and figure out the puzzle. When you do figure it out, it's one of those excellent moments of, yes, I nailed this. It's almost like beating that boss you can't beat, in a sense. But the story, I just can't. I'm just stuck with, what is this story for? What's it about? why am I doing this? And that's why I can't get out of my head. So I'm there with the 7.
You know what? I'm right there with you. I'm a little bit lower. Like I said, I came into this because I was excited because I'm a puzzle guy.
Yeah.
You know, again, it looks awesome. It started off really great. Once I got stuck a few times, I was starting to get a little discouraged, and that's where I started having problems with the repetitive audio.
Yeah.
It started to pick up being like, you know what? If you do get stuck in this, it's even harder to deal with now because of some of these things.
Sure.
But again, overall, the gameplay is really clean. The mechanics, as far as getting from point A to point B in these puzzles, works really well.
Yeah.
It's creative, something I've never really seen before. So you know what? I'm right there, but I'm just a little bit lower with you. 6.5.
Nice.
The Sojourn is a great first-person puzzle platformer. You'll find yourself getting immersed in the beautiful environments and level design. The audio in this game is mellow and suits the overall style of the game. The puzzles can be difficult at times, and you'll find yourself resetting the puzzle every once in a while. But overall, the Sojourn hits all the buttons for what a puzzle game needs. Fans of the genre are really going to enjoy this one. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos.